Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Poetry of Healing. And this very special episode. I have two phenomenal poets who will join us right after the centering activity. And I'm telling you, you want to stay because they are filled with energy, soul, and everything else that goes with it. So I'm going to invite you now to join me in this centering. And of course, it's an invitation, and it's to remind you that you are exactly where you're meant to be. You have nowhere else to go, you have nothing else to do, you have no one else to be but your beautiful self. And so we're going to focus on our hearts, and we're going to do heart math, focused breathing. And those of you who've been with me over the years are familiar with it. And those who this is new for you, it's very easy to follow. So we're going to use our breath and imagery of our heart to relax us and have us just melt into the space. So I invite you to lower your gaze. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes, and you can be sitting, standing, or lying down. And I ask you to, when we take a breath in through our nose, slowly, and then out through our mouth. And so let's begin with a breath, eyes closed or gaze lowered, and take a nice deep breath in through your nose slowly, and then out through your mouth like you're blowing out a candle. Again, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now this time I'd like you to focus on your heart. So your heart's in the left side of your chest. You might want to put your hand there just as an anchor. And you're going to take, when you take a nice deep breath in through your nose, you can imagine your heart getting bigger. And then when you breathe out, you imagine it getting smaller. So it's like your heart's breathing for you. Take a breath in through your nose, heart gets big, it's breathing. And out through your mouth. And then just feel the relaxation as you take a breath in through your nose. Heart gets big. And out through your mouth. Eyes remain closed or gaze lowered. And I invite you to take another breath in and be aware of your surroundings. Take it out. Take another breath in and notice how your beautiful body feels. And then when you exhale anything that is stressful or painful or you just want to get rid of, right? Just exhale it out. And then the last breath we're going to take together is you're going to inhale to notice where you are and exhale to enter this session. So welcome to you, and thank you for joining me in this centering activity. And now it's what you're all here for, to meet and hear from our guest poets during this National Poetry Month. So I'm going to bring them both in. Here we go. And I want to welcome these beautiful folks. First, it's Beth, Dr. Beth Ching. And of course, a lot of you may remember Mr. Spirit Rick. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to, the viewers really want to hear from you. and the beautiful work that you have created. So I'm going to start with Beth. Beth, would you kindly tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to start writing poetry?
Great. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Van. Paulina, thank you so much. I just want to thank you so much for the honor of being on your show. I know it's going to be a beautiful experience. And I just got a chance to meet my colleague here, Mr. Spirit Ricks. And again, just great energy right away. So my name is, Paulina mentioned, is Elizabeth Chang. Please call me Beth. And I was sharing with Paulina that I actually started writing poetry when I had an opportunity to live in Austin, Texas, in the late 80s, early 90s. My husband is a native of Texas. And so I was there in Austin for about 6 years. And when I was there in the late 80s, early 90s, it's a university town, beautiful, wonderful energy also. The third, like the music capital of the US in many respects. And I started writing poetry because I needed a creative outlet. And honestly, at the time, I wasn't a student there at University of Texas, Austin. So at that point, there weren't any opportunities for me to join a poetry group that was racially identified as, like myself, I identify as an Asian American. And so I met a wonderful poet, Evelyn, and she was the leader of what was called the Catfish Poet Society in Austin, Texas. And it was an African American poetry group. And they were so generous of heart and generous of spirit that they allowed me, as not someone that identifies that way, to join their group. And every week we would have a theme. We'd have a prompt. So for instance, the prompt might be the first time you were away from home. And then we would just write a poem about that theme. And so that's always been my process now. If I have a theme, something will come to me and then I'll write it. And so that's always been my process. So I get ideas around, things will kind of percolate. I'm interested in hearing Spirit's process of writing poetry, but something will percolate. And then, like many people in the arts, it's something that you have to do. You don't have a choice about it, right? It comes out in some form or another. And for me, for writing poetry, that's how it comes out. So I'm going to save the rest of my introduction for my signature poem, because it talks about how I identify, etc. And I would like to hand back to Paulina. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Yes.
And Spirit, can you share your story with us?
Well, first of all, blessings, grand rising to all the great souls. I'm in California and I had to sit in the backyard to enjoy this. So, Auntie, thank you once again. When I met Beth and when I met Dr. Van Pauline, the first thing I noticed was all these initials behind your names. And I want to say that because you are educated, you guys are disciplined. My education came from a different place. I'm a 1.3 GPA from high school, never returned to college, no formal education at all. So the material, the book that I wrote, the material that I wrote is more of a miracle in my view. At my age, to sit down and to be able to articulate my beliefs and thoughts. So this is a new journey for me at this age, to be able to take words and to become a wordsmith and to be able to people to leave them better than we found them. Mm-hmm. So my testimony is real short.
Well, and Spirit, I really appreciate the transparency and vulnerability that you have expressed. What I do know, because I know each of you individually, what I do know is that for each of you, these words have come from your heart.
Yes.
These are not head poems. These are heart poems.
Yes.
And
yes.
So when something comes from your heart, it doesn't matter if you have a GED or a PhD. Okay?
Let the church say amen.
Because what you're doing is your heart speaks to other hearts.
Yes.
And that's where the human connection happens. So we're not going to wait any longer, but I will say for the viewers who have just joined us, we have two phenomenal poets during this National Poetry Day who are going to share the words from their hearts. And so we already agreed that ladies go first. So Beth, you're on, and I'm going to put up a picture of your book cover as you introduce your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Van. This is my book. It has poetry, prose, and artwork, all done by myself. And that's very strategic of me because I don't want to deal with any copyright issues. So it's all for me. I wrote this during this poem I wrote in 2019. And I wrote the book in 2020 when many of us were not allowed. It was right during right in the middle of the pandemic. And that was the time that I couldn't do research. So I said, let me try and be productive. And I ended up writing a non-academic piece. So this comes from my book, Next 10 Exits, Reflections on Race and Resilience in Vallejo, California. I'm from Vallejo, California. And the poem, again, as I mentioned to you, I wrote it in 2019. And it's called No Need to Manufacture Soul.
So Beth, there may be people watching who have your book. So would you tell us what page it's on?
Yes, it's on page 40. It begins on page 40. And I'm going to go ahead and start it. Thank you so much, Dr. Van. I appreciate it. Okay. I usually do the standing up, so it might come out a little bit different. But
you can stand up. I'm standing up.
You're going to see some places on my body that you're not going to see the way the camera is showing.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to stay put right now. Okay. So
let it flow, Beth. Let it flow.
Thank you, Spirit, my friend. Okay, no need to manufacture soul. This poem was the impetus to write this book. Some things cannot be taught, and having soul is one of them. Got triggered again in dance class. You see, been taking what started as a Zumba class has morphed into a hip-hop-esque Afro-Latin dance class. The dance instructor of color, mad talented and half my age. But she got to manufacture soul to the mainly white with a sprinkling of Asian and Latinx sisters in the rapidly gentrifying city of Oakland, where my son was born 15 years ago. Me, I'm from Vallejo, California. One industry, manufacturing, working class town. The Naval Shipyard got closed in 1996. Then the city went bankrupt, the school district taken over by the state. 25 miles north of Oakland, but might as well be 2,500. Born in 1962, but no need for the instructor to tell me how to say, hey, when I'm feeling it. Only one in class wearing high-top basketball shoes, because dancing on hardwood floors, just like the Hogan High Gym, I played basketball, badminton, and went to dances. Start moving once the music comes on. No need to wait for directions. Don't complain when the air conditioning's not working, because it's good to sweat. Felt like cursing out a few white women on separate occasions when they told me to move because they need, quote, more space, unquote. I never had a problem when dancing in my hometown, where it's a quarter each of Asian Pacific American, Latinx, African American, and white people. Got to class with my Warrior shirt on. My son said, have to rep Oakland since it's the last year the team's here. We're in the middle of the NBA playoffs with 40 dancers, and I'm the only one for Golden State for real. Are these folks from Oakland? No need to translate the Latin trap songs, as I understand Spanish and I learned how to cumbia in Texas, where my husband's from. Closer to my generation, Sly Stone, Confunction, E40, Baby Bash. Nefta Pharaoh, SOB, RBE, and Her, closer to my son's generation, all from Vallejo, now with population 122,000. The city good to grow up in, but now police killing people of color in record numbers. Dancing once a week on Saturday used to be my therapy. Now my son Antonio says, Mom, you should take class somewhere else. Creature of habit in my middle age. Plus so convenient. Too far to drive 50 miles round trip to the V-Town, which taught me about resilience, like how to stay on beat when I can't remember the step. how to give a eulogy at age 19 for my eldest brother who died of alcoholism at the age of 29, how to make my way down a Soul Train line, how to wear down a path in a shag carpet while Filipino friends taught me how to cha-cha when I was 15 years old, just like Antonio, how to slow dance under a blue light basement party where we would dance off Earth, Wind, and Fire Cameo on the Commodores. Remember Brick House? No need to tell me between songs to give someone a high five. Save it for those women that need aerobic shoes, choreographic directions, air conditioning, more space. Just pump up the volume. Like I said before, I'm from Vallejo. Like, this is where I'm supposed to drop the mic, but I don't have a mic to drop.
This was
oh my
Beth.
goodness.
Beth,
Yeah.
I wanted to start dancing during. I mean, your rhythm and the words, and
Thank you all.
wow.
See, this is why I started writing poetry with people that were generous of spirit. Before we say BIPOC folks, right? Because you know, when I've read, honestly, being transparent, when I've read this to a crowd that's mainly the dominant culture, so a lot of white folks.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody claps. Nobody. I mean, you know what I mean. It's kind of it's rare. I mean, there's shows of appreciation. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate that, but you know, as a poet, that feeds your spirit when people respond to your work. And so sometimes I don't get fed, you know, in terms of the response. So I really appreciate you all, because that really feeds my spirit also.
Well, Beth, I do want, and we've all had that experience. You share something from your heart, and then there's just silence. Right. But what I learned, and I learned this from my pastor. He's been on the show several times, and he's Bishop Keith Clark. And what I learned from him is that, well, I learned this about men, but I think it can apply to anybody. And that is, when you've done something, said something, and there's silence, it doesn't mean that the person hasn't heard you,
sure,
or that they're judging what you said. They're just processing.
Sure.
You know, so
I understand that. As an Asian American person, that's what I often have to tell some of my colleagues that don't identify as Asian Pacific Islanders, that sometimes people think there's a passivity around Asian students, and it's just. It's not that people aren't receiving the information, but I'm just saying, I guess I have a preference for people that, preference for an audience that is, that I could,
that's
there's
responsive.
It's a two-way experience. I feel
that's responsive. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about that poem, Spirit? What came to you at first? Because I saw you rocking, you know. So
look, first of all. Written word is about a story that can take you on a journey. You took me on a journey. I was raised in Oakland, and you took me on a journey, and you know, when I feel something that's real, the tears of joy began to fall. You took me on a journey that had me in that place in time, because it appears that our ages are similar. So that history, which you made reference to, sparked things within inside of me to say, I remember that. I remember that. Then it brought me to the present and brought me to a place to say, and look at where you are today, young man. So I appreciate your words, because your words reflect my journey. Time and places, experience. So that was a rock, especially in the basement with the globe going. And the they don't know nothing about them platform shoes, you know.
Oh, this is wonderful. Well, I just want to let the viewers who have just joined us, I want you to know that we are celebrating National Poetry
Yeah.
month, and we have two phenomenal poets. And Beth just read her poet from out of Vallejo, California. So now we're going to come back to Oakland and see what Spirit has for us.
Okay. So, listening audience, your hostess with the mostest threw me a curveball, but I've been at bat before, so we're gonna work this. My writings has a song in it called "Changed Up" that was wrote by myself, Joshua Fisher, who I reference as Wisdom, and his wife Jocelyn. And so I am going to read a part of the lyrical content from the writings of the song Changed Up. At 64 years of age, I am humbled and honored to show you a glimpse of my spiritual walk. Are you ready for a virtuous solution from the garden of pollution? I went by, I don't know, but now I know who I am. See, I'm a virtuous man. To follow the words of the plan ain't not the ways of the land. See, I'm anointed. None of these voices guide my choices. Meant this repentance. Give the mercy. Was thirsty. I got a cool glass of water. Thank you, Father, for the fruits of the Spirit, filled with love, joy, peace. My book of life. Do you hear it? Went and got my life in order. Ain't no looking back. Sodom and Gomorrah. Now I changed up. Lift my hands and get my praise up. I thank the Father that he raised us. Every way because he made us. Blessings.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
All right. Come on.
Yes. Fabulous. Fantastic. Now, I didn't put your book up, and here is your book. And there's a lot of heartfelt, deep down, just, I don't know what other word to call it, but writings that this says a woman's guide to a virtuous man, but I believe every man should read this. And I'd like you, Spirit, to tell us what was behind you developing that song. And then I really want you to talk about the book of life. I just think that is so instructive. Anything you want to say about how the book of life impacts our daily walk or anything. Mm-hmm.
So, relating to the book of life in my writings, I had the blessing of having a vision, and I believe we all have visions. We all hear things that sometimes we get quiet enough and let our souls speak to us, we'll hear some great things. And this vision showed me a great library. In that library, I began to look at the books on the shelves, not understanding what was the contents of the books. As I traveled through the library, I saw a large conference table, and in the center of that conference table was a book with a great light that shined down upon it. As I began to draw closer to the book, I immediately realized that this book was my book of life. I got to the conference table, I looked to the down one side of it and down the other, and the table went on for an eternity. But here sat my book in the middle with this great light on it. As I began to flip the pages from the day of my youthfulness becoming conscious, I could begin to read my interpretation and my thoughts And my words, even if I didn't speak it, yet if it was a thought within my heart, it was wrote. As time went on and I matured and I began to see where seeds were planted in me that weren't virtuous, that weren't proper, I began to see the fruit of that information later in my life. And the fruit of it, I would begin to eat, and I became very shame. And as I'm reading this book, flipping through the pages, I could literally feel the shame from the choices that I had made. I continue to flip and I come to my present. And in my present, the vision is being wrote down that I'm having. So I began to go and I began to flip pages of the future. I flipped and I flipped and I flipped and I flipped in this conference table, and the pages of my future went on for an eternity. When I decided to stop flipping because of being tired, the common denominator on every page of my future was that it was blank. At that moment, a pen entered into my mouth and my soul spoke to me and said, "You are the author of this book. This is your book of life. You're responsible for what's wrote in it. Everything is recorded. You cannot change anything." And I want to go back. There was a moment where I read something that I was so extremely ashamed of that I attempted to put my hand and smear the words out. And this 4-foot block diamond came in between my hand and the words of my life and said, "It's wrote. You can't change it, can't divert it, live with it." So here I am in the present now, looking at my future. I've got the pen in my mouth, understanding that I am the one. I am the shepherd of my life. As you, all of us are the shepherds of our life. And we must take responsibility, because nobody, the last words I'll leave you with this is, he says, because no one has the authority to write anything in your book.
Wow. Yes. You know, this has been, we didn't know where this was going to go. We didn't know the twists and turns of what was going to come from our heart. And I just thank the both of you for just sharing your words, your wisdom, your life. And
Yes.
Beth, I just want to give you an opportunity to respond to either Spirit's poem or these his just reflections on his thoughts about the book of life.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. I guess I'll start with the poem. I just felt like the words were so gorgeous, and I was so glad that you were outside in nature, because it just really, I feel like the words resonated more
Yeah.
with the audience because of you being out in nature.
Yes.
And in terms of the book of life, I mean, that's so deep. I don't even. I'm like, it's lunchtime, and y'all are asking me to get this deep.
Hey, sister, say that's one of the ones that say, well, hold on, I'm gonna be quiet now. Let me marinate. I'm not. I can't.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you know, it really resonated with me, Spirit, honestly, because you know, my mother, may she rest in peace. She was born in the U.S. Also, she was Korean, and she was born in the Central Valley of California. But anyway, her father was a pastor. He was a Presbyterian minister. Anyhow, she brought us up very, very Christian, very, very religious. And so when you were reading that, it just, I don't know, it just moved me so much. It's just like with, you know, like, this is off the topic. I'm how do you call it? I'm getting a little bit off the topic, but you know, like when Prince,
yeah, go ahead, whatever it is, do it.
Yeah, when Prince passed away, when Prince died, I cried because so much of his work was very spiritual. So much, you know, Dearly Beloved, you know, his song.
Yes.
I forget the actual title of it. But he starts it off that way, so it kind of has a way of, to me, like getting to my core in a hurry.
Yes.
Like the words, like it just goes straight, like just straight to my soul, right? Like just really quick, because that's how I grew up. My mother used to make us read the Bible at dinner time.
Mm-hmm.
After we had dinner, we'd have to read chapters of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
My mother didn't play. She made us read that, the Old Testament. I'm trying to tell you, it was that King James version. You know what I mean? It wasn't this.
the revised version, the new living version. No, that good old King James.
That was very moving to me about hopefully we have agency over our own lives. But that's what I got from your piece.
Yes.
That's my hope anyway.
Absolutely.
This sense. Well, I'm sorry, Spirit. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that we're born shepherds of our own lives, but we're raised as sheep to follow.
See,
we're born shepherds, but we've been raised to follow. If you're going to follow the good shepherd, but be a shepherd over your life.
Exactly.
And I wanted to say this to you, Sister Beth, when you were reading and you talked about how some, when they're quiet, and Auntie, she ministered to you about this as well. I want to share this, is that we look for people to tell us they love us, that they're proud of us. We look for those accolades, and we should receive them. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's difficult for people to say they're proud of you if they're not proud of themselves.
Exactly.
They can't say I love you and I encourage you if they don't love themselves and they're not encouraged.
Exactly.
So this is the experience I had with my 3-year-old grandson. I put him in the mirror and he looked at himself. And this is what I practice, and this is what I want to see you practice. So that, if the world give us an accolade, if they applaud us, cool. But if they never do, he stands in that mirror and he says, Solomon, I love you. This is 3 years old. He's 6 now, just 3 years old, talking to himself. Solomon, I love you. Solomon, I'm proud of you. Solomon, you're a shepherd of your life.
Okay.
If don't nobody tell us, we tell ourselves we proud.
That's right.
Absolutely. Okay. So, Spirit's trying to start a part 2 of this. So I'm gonna have to, it's time for me to bring this episode to a close. But viewers, I know my heart was filled, my soul was stirred, I've been energized, and I just hope that you enjoyed this experience of these 2 phenomenal poets. And I hope we've shown you that poetry does not have to be esoteric and not being able to be understood. It doesn't even have to rhyme. It is a lyrical, methodical expression.
Well said, Auntie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And so Spirit calls me Auntie because he's very good friends with my nephew. So now I'm his auntie too.
And he's my cousin.
Yeah, he's your cousin. Okay. So in bringing this to a close, I just want to thank you, Beth. Thank you, Spirit, for sharing the gifts that you've been given to be able to share with the world. And, since Spirit opened the door to a part 2, I'm going to have you both back to continue this.
Come on, Beth. We're going to rock it. Come on, girl.
To continue this journey that we started. So right now, I'm going to say thank you. And
thank you.
Just sending you off with blessings today and always, and continue to just let your heart, your soul speak to us, because the world needs it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
So I'm going to close the show now, and I just thank you for being with us today. And I'm here every first and third Sunday, and I invite you to join me then. But in the interim, there's another word, but in the interim, remember to take time every day to find quietness and just anchor yourself in your breath to just bring this peace and calmness that your body, mind, and soul just craves. And until I see you again, I wish you love and light. And I'm going to show you how to get some resources, and have a great day and evening.